Welcome to Here Where You Belong, your go-to podcast for exploring belonging with your host and belonging expert, Dea Irby. We are thrilled to have you join us. Together, we'll dive into the depths of what it means for each of us to find our own place in the world, whether it's within our communities, our relationships, or within ourselves. Today's episode is meant to inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. So grab a cozy spot and settle in. Welcome to Here Where You Belong.
Hello, awesome belongers. Welcome home to Here Where You Belong podcast. Today's guest became a novelist because her late grandmother, I might mention, showed up in a dream at 2 a.m. and asked her to write the family story. I'm Dea, your host. Get ready to be inspired and blessed. Help me welcome today's guest, Brigid Kennedy. Hey, Brigid.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here today with y'all.
Oh, I am so glad you're here, and I know we are going to get into some stuff. Well, but let me tell you a little bit more about our guest. Brigid is an author, speaker, and former violin teacher whose journey into writing began with a call she never expected and felt completely unqualified to answer. What started as one woman's decision to honor her family's history became the of Irish myths and Incan legends series, a whole series, not just a book, a sweeping historical fantasy inspired by her real life ancestors. Her great-grandfather was an Irishman who married a woman in Peru in 1910 before disappearing into the Amazon, leaving behind a family story that stretched across continents, cultures, and generations. Ooh. For Brigid, this journey has been about more than writing books. It's been about belonging. That's why she's here. Reconnecting a scattered family history, honoring those who came before her, and discovering her own place in a story much bigger than herself. Her debut novel, Lost, The Lost City of Incan Gold, combines Irish mythology, Incan legend, and real family history into a powerful adventure that reminds us how deeply our roots shape who we become. Spectabulous. Brigid, any additions, subtractions, or corrections?
I'm still a violin teacher. I am taking my entire private studio, my youth symphony, my husband, my daughter, all my family on this crazy journey of mine.
That is, I'm glad you made that correction. That sounds amazing. Yes, is violin hard to learn?
It's extremely difficult to learn. It's one of the hardest. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to learn to sound good.
True.
You can pick it up and maybe learn to hold your fingers in the right place, and it sounds terrible. And your neighbors, please stop practicing. But that's beside the point. I brought you here, invited you here, and you came willingly to share your story of belonging, either how you found it for yourself or how you're creating it for other people. So the mic is yours, Brigid. Give us your belonging story.
3 years ago, it was 2 a.m., dead asleep, and my grandmother came to me in a dream. And it wasn't like this fuzzy vision. She was there, her presence, her face, her voice, and she got right down to it. And she said, "Write our story." And then she was gone. And I sat up in the dark and I thought about what she was telling me and asking me to do. And I knew exactly what story she was talking about. It was of my great grandfather, Robert Patrick Kennedy, an Irish treasure hunter who traveled and braved the open seas and went to Peru in order to find the lost city of Incan gold. And out of that quest came a huge love story. and happen chance and fates and circumstances. And I heard this story being told around our family table every holiday, every special occasion. And I saw the pictures come out, right? But they weren't properly labeled. And I heard my other aunties or tias and talking about stories that they've heard, but they couldn't quite remember the right ancestor name. And I could feel this history slipping through the fingers of every generation. And so
Mm.
I knew what she wanted me to do. The only problem was I'm a musician. I write music, not novels. And so, but when a loved one looks at you in that certain way and they tell you to do something, you can't say no to them. And I wasn't going to be the one to tell Catalina Kennedy no. So I did what I had to do. I got up and I made a big pot of coffee and I started writing. At first, it was the easy part. It was the names, places, history, the stories, and I got to that point where my family hit a wall, and that was the same wall I hit. And it was the moment when my great grandfather never returned from his expedition out of the Amazon. And we don't know what happened to him. We don't know what he saw. We don't know what he found. We don't know what kept him from coming home. And every day after that, we wondered, is he going to come home now? Was he injured and he just couldn't come to us? Is he going to come home in 2 more months, next year? It was always an open question. And the whole family just disintegrated from that point. We had so much grief, so much sadness. Now, let me restate this. This is my grandmother. My grandmother that I grew up with was the daughter, right? So this is so close in generations that I could feel the impact from the loss of our family. And so I knew exactly what she wanted to do. And I got to that spot where our family's wall keeps getting hit. And I felt her pushing through it. And I was like, what do you want me to do, Grandma? And then it started playing like a movie reel in my mind. And the siblings came and they got older and they found his journal and they all felt like they needed to close this chapter in the book and find the clues and just to move on with their lives. Just let that sadness heal. And these siblings, they ended up finding each other and then venturing into those magical borders of the Amazon. And in that, you have these siblings. You have the strong one. You have the one that's the planner. That's the one that's the adventurous one. You have the one that's the emotional one and the one that's the doubter. And then you have the one that you just want to strangle with your hands around their neck because they keep driving you nuts. And then I wrote all of that in there. I wrote the tension. I wrote the survival of every single day in the Amazons, being chased by cannibals and headhunters and surviving temples of death, and that joy and that resilience that they end up finding, and that bond that they end up forging, and the answers that they end up finding. And what I did not realize was this fantasy story that I was writing was completely something else. And the calling always knows more than you do, because it's a spiritual thing. It's a higher calling, right? They know more than you do. And at that point, if I would have told my grandmother, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I have a full profession, a career, I have a 9 to 5, I have a to-do list, I can't spend time away from everything else that I do in this busy, busy, busy life to write this down. If I doubted myself, and there were so many parts of doubting, of writing, I'm not a writer. Who am I to write a novel and to do this journey? I don't know anything about publishing. I don't know anything about marketing. I'm Gen X. I have one Facebook account, and it's only my private friends and family. I am nobody to the world. Who am I to do it? If I would have said that, I think so much would have been lost, because now that I'm into my journey and I see what my book has become, I wouldn't have just let down my grandmother. I would have let down my entire family, my daughter, generations to come, without writing this story down. But now that the book is out
Mm-hmm.
and we talk about belonging, and if you don't belong, what are you? You're
Lost.
lost. You are lost if you do not belong. And now that the book has come out and it's in the hands of my family, they keep replying back to me with heartfelt one word, thank you. I'm like, okay, I'm still in the writing zone, but connecting with you here and connecting with all the interviews that I've been doing. And it took a New York Times bestseller to read my book, become a fan instantly. And she said, Brigid, you did not write fantasy. And I'm like, of course I wrote fantasy. There's dragons. It's fantasy. She goes, no, what you did was you wrote a reclamation for your family. You reclaimed your family joy and history, and you healed. You closed that chapter. You brought them the unity, the joy that they never had. And I closed that chapter for my family. And I never even realized I was doing it. I was writing the ending that they never got. And now they
That
have it. And now we all belong together.
true story of belonging. I have one follow-up. I mean, that's a beautiful, thank you for hearing your grandmother. When she appeared to you, how long had she been gone? And you said
Oh
you
my
grew
goodness.
up with her, so you really knew her.
Yes, yes. Well, we grew up at like half the time in Peru. Every summer we went down and visited. And then when my younger sister was born, 10 years younger than me, she came and lived in the United States for full time and lived with us. So we really knew her. And so she died. She died when I was 17, and I am turning 50 like next month. So it's been a while. Yeah.
Wow. But she looked just like you remembered her.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And you recognized her voice. And she came to tell you at 2 in the morning. Couldn't you made it like 6? So I would go ahead and no.
That wasn't her style. That
It
was not
was
her style.
okay. So you've been to Peru and in the Amazon. Have you been to all the places you write about? And that I'm sure that has added to um, the reality of the fantasy, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes. So, yes. So here recently, I went to Ireland as an adult. And it was different, right? Traveling. When I went to Peru as a kid, you're a kid. You don't realize you're in a different country. You don't realize the importance of it, the just the history that you can just feel through it, and then connecting with your family. You just don't realize that as a kid. But going as an adult, and I want to say this. So my great grandfather, he left Ireland and he never returned. So my grandmother, my abuelita Carolina, she never went back to Ireland. My mother Maria never went back to Ireland. So I was the next in the generation. I was the Kennedy that returned to Ireland. And as an adult, it just hit so much harder, that impact, to stand there and stand on those cobblestone streets and know my great grandfather grew up here, ran down these streets. Stand before our family castle, to stand on the cliffs of Moher, to just feel, taste the Irish air and the soil, and feel that wind through the hair. It just made so much more of an impact. And now I'm looking forward to going back to Peru as an adult,
Yes.
because there is a part to this story that you may not know yet. And do you want to hear it in this part of the podcast or in the next part of the podcast?
Whichever we can, well, we might save it for the second part.
It's good.
Because so uh, did were there any artifacts from the time that they were in the Amazon or in Peru, or that you actually have could use for reference?
Um, so so my great grandfather, Robert Patrick Kennedy, married Eudocia Rodriguez, right? So that's where the union started in 1910 at St. Catalina's Monastery. So they had two children. Robert the second, which we call Robbie, and Catalina, which are my two protagonists. But in the real story, Robert continued the treasure hunting tradition of our family. And he took tourists into the depths of the Amazon on treasure hunting expeditions. And he actually found the gold Incan mask, the famous gold, the sun god mask of the Incans. And to this day, it sits in the Museum of Gold in Lima, Peru. And it just proves that even today there are some treasures that still can be found.
Ooh, that's fabulous. Oh, and I know we could hear more and more and more, but we are going to take a break right now and be right back with my fabulous guest today, Brigid Kennedy. Thank you. Be right back. Hey there! Isn't my guest amazing? So glad you joined us today. In this world that often feels disconnected, building community and fostering belonging are essential. That's why I created this podcast, to bring inspiring people to you, to encourage you to create that sense of belonging and community, no matter where you are. If you're being blessed by my guest, and we have some more, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. You know who needs to hear this. Stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember, you belong. Now, back to our amazing guest. And we're back with my fabulous guest today, Brigid Kennedy, author of Lost and Other Things, an amazing person. I get to ask her my three favorite questions I ask every guest, and why should she not have to answer them herself? What do you consider is your greatest accomplishment?
That is a tough question. I'm turning 50 this month, like next week. And so I lived a life. I've done my profession and succeeded in it. Um, and and I wrote this novel, and I think it's the legacy that one would leave behind. And I have a number of legacies going on. In my violin career, I volunteer teach a youth symphony in elementary school, so kindergarten to fifth grade. And we were able to provide for them all the instruments, so they don't have to pay for it. And I volunteer all my time there, and so these kids get to experience symphonic lessons, and in 10 lessons, these are kindergartners. In 10 lessons, they can do an entire concert. And so many of them start with me in kindergarten and go to fifth grade. But I have done this. We just marked the 10th year of it. So a decade of it. And what I'm now finding, and I love that I find, is when I'm walking around my community, like in the grocery store, Target, or somewhere, and I run into them. They're so much older, and they come up to me. They're like, Ms. Brigid, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're still here. Like, I still play violin, or I use the violin technique that you told me, and now I play flute, and now I'm like a percussionist, or I've used these skills in so much of part of my own life. Or if they come up and they share it with me. And to have that in your community, to leave that legacy there is just so heartwarming. But then the legacy now that I left for my book, when I finished writing it, I had a choice to make. And I could either just tuck it away in a drawer and let my grandchildren discover it someday and learn about their history and their lineage, or I could try to get it out of the hands of the world. And I'm so glad that I decided to take that second step, because it is a frightening and it's a huge second step to do, to get out into the hands of the world. And I knew nothing how to do it, but I learned. It's a huge learning curve. And I'm glad, because so many people are responding to the story, and especially the healing that it brought to my family. But the legacy I'm most proud of is that now my teen daughter, because she's old enough to understand where her roots come from now and the importance. And I wanted her to know that if she ever feels the need to go adventure about or go on a quest or seek something. I wanted her to know that that's her ancestors calling her, that she has treasure hunting blood pumping through her veins. And that is something special and unique. And I wanted to give that to her, that gift, that legacy gift. So I think legacies would be the thing that I'm most proud of.
Mm. Well, you mentioned that you now are getting it out into the world, and one of the ways you're doing that is with your YouTube channel, where you actually tell us about that using your YouTube channel.
Well, there are many ways to market and spread publicity about your cause or your book or whatever you need to spread
Mhm,
the word
mhm.
on. There are many paths, and so what I have discovered, my favorite path is talking and communicating with podcasts. I love this, and but also just staying in the world of my book. And so on my YouTube channel, I have a very special series that I'm doing, and it's called An Author's Dream because it's two ways. My grandmother Catalina came to me in a dream, right, which started
Yeah.
all of this. But it's also an author's dream just to stay in the characters and the story and talk all about it. So what I do is each episode I read. I'm reading through the whole book. So each episode is a brand new chapter. So you get to hear the story through my voice, my excitement, right? The feeling
How
and
you
passion that I
want
put
it
in
to
there.
be read is
How I
how.
want it to be read. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
And then I go and we talk about the chapter, the behind the scenes, the drafts that I cut something or I added something, or the threads that I wove through there to watch for, the little nuggets or the Easter eggs that I planted in there. And then I pull out my true family history, the photographs. I like the real photographs of my great grandfather and great grandmother getting married, their marriage photos, all the photos that we have at our family. And I talk about it and I share it all openly. But one thing that I completely love to do is all the time, and especially when I'm writing, I'm talking to the characters in my head, making like almost doing emotional checks. Are you okay with this? That how I wrote this? How do you feel about it? And
Does
or
this
the
say
scene
what you
playing out.
really feel? Does this
Yes,
say what you really feel?
yes, and that whole scene. So I used AI to do it, but you'll see like the scene go black, and then you'll see me enter, and then my characters, my avatars enter, and the conversations that we have to pertaining to that chapter in there, and it's just brilliant is one good thing AI is for. And I just love it. It's all part of my heart, and every single episode is a new chapter, so definitely check that out. Everything is at Brigid Kennedy Books, so that's all my socials, my personal website, my YouTube. Everything is at Brigid Kennedy Books.
Do you know what I understanding your treasure hunter history?
Yes.
You created a book where you hid treasures for people to hunt. You are a treasure hunter planting treasures for people.
Oh my gosh, but it's so much. So people who has gotten my book early, they have read it several times over again, and they keep coming back to me with the same thing. They're like, "Bridget, every single time I read it, I find something new that you hid
Yes.
in there." And they're because it's a mystery. I wrote a mystery, and clues to that mystery I hid in each of the chapters brilliantly. And they're just like, "You stated it right there in that sentence." And I just totally like read over it. And then so people are coming back and they're rereading and they're finding that joy and that new adventure of rereading it. So I think that's tremendous. Thank you for noticing that.
Yes, absolutely. You're creating all the readers to be treasure hunters,
Treasure, building a community of treasure
passing,
hunters.
building a legacy of treasure hunters. Look at you carrying on the family tradition, not just your daughter, but you have done this for the world. So the next question is what makes you feel like you belong?
I think now, because now that the book is out, the story is out, but our family is being healed. I've had so many of my aunts and uncles that I haven't heard from such a long time reach out to me with stories that they remember of that they heard of, like the love stories and things that happened throughout it. That it was just such a nice thing to reconnect with the distant family that I thought like either grown up because our lives get busy. We have our own family hub that we are now raising when you get married and have children, right? That's your family, and you kind of get further apart from others, especially if you don't try to keep up that connection. And it was just so heartwarming to feel the outreach from all my distant aunts and uncles. And so a family that felt disintegrated from a specific point in time coming back together. So I really feel like I belong in a family now. I have lineage, I have connections, I have something bigger than myself that I can belong to.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, we don't have the Walton family anymore, where everybody lives on the farm together, and
Mhm.
and each family maybe has their own house, but it's at the other corner of the pasture, so that we're all together and everybody gathers for Sunday dinners and everybody's in the same community because we're so may not even be on the same continent, which that was in your family too. But anyway, oh, that's so if someone feels like they don't belong, you may have the possibility of finding your belonging by finding of your family.
Yeah. It's always out there.
Always out there. What is your favorite quote?
Well, my favorite quote is something that has held true to me throughout my book, and I have it right here on the title of my book, and it says, "The fates do not punish, they prepare." And so many times when we're waiting for an answer or a prayer to be answered, right? We're waiting. Sometimes we feel like we're being punished. And
Mm.
if it doesn't come right away, if it doesn't come right away,
Hmm.
right? And but you also have to think about the possibility that that waiting time or that unanswered prayer or something takes time to develop. And so they're actually preparing you for something way greater. So
Hmm.
so I do like that. I like that the fates do not punish, they prepare. It kind of gives you a different perspective to put on things, especially if you're still waiting for an answer.
It's a better perspective than to waste your time grumbling and being discouraged instead of, oh, this is really hard. What exciting thing am I supposed to be getting ready for? It's a totally different
Yeah.
perspective. And of course, if there's something like writing a novel that we're supposed to be being prepared for, the longer we take to allow ourselves to be prepared through the experience, the longer it will be before we are prepared. And we're just putting off what we're here meant to be and do. Now, you say you're not a writer, but you're a creative. You create music. And you understand if you write music that there's an ebb and flow, that there's a rhythm, and that was already prepared in you so that when you were given this mission to write the family story, that was underlying to help you create this. I'm pretty sure that's my perspective and that's what I'm thinking. What do you
I
think?
do. I do think, and I think being a violinist in particular also helped me because we're perfectionists, and we are dedicated. And and when you learn a craft, especially like violin, you have to put like 6 to 8 hours in every single day. And it doesn't matter if you feel inspired to play your violin that day. It doesn't matter. You're putting the 6 or the 8 hours in. Period. Period. And we thrive on making something greater each time. So when I say 6 to 8 hours, every time you run a passage that could take like 20 seconds or 2 minutes, every time you practice that passage again, you have a new goal in mind to make it better, quieter, louder, more like suspenseful, more passionate. So each time you drill it, you always have to keep pushing it. And when we are doing our practicing, it's all about critique. And we get critiqued on everything. Every single thing we get critiqued on. And we learn that it's not personal. It's just in the quest of making the best music possible to present it to your audience as possible. So when the soul of the composer finally matches the soul of the performer, that's where the magic's created. And so when I was writing my book, I was not attached to any phrase or word, and I didn't ho hum about slashing through with edits and everything because I only had one goal in mind: make the best book possible. So I think that really helped me as going from a writer to the editor parts, that I was ready to do that. And especially on the writing part, some days you don't feel like writing. Some days you could, like, all the pages are flowing and you want to write, and some days the pages don't. But I'm going to sit there for 6 or 8 hours and I'm going to try to produce something, because that's how you're going to get to an end product. And so I think my discipline um, of being a violinist carried over very well into the writing aspects.
Yes. Bic. Writing is bic. Butt in chair.
Yes. You do got to have a very comfortable seat. Yes, you do.
Yes. But so how did you have a separate editor, or did you edit yourself?
Actually, I had an editing faux pas. I paid for an editor. I paid for an editor, and it was horrible experience. They took my manuscript and they changed things that, so in my book, it's in past tense, but my character talks to herself in present tense, and it's italics because she's speaking to herself, right? Standard form. They took those things out and unitalics and put them in past tense, and then it just didn't make sense. They did so much stuff to it. I couldn't even find the rhyme or reason to put it back. So I ended up having to rewrite the entire thing from beginning to end, and it made my book stronger. So,
Yes,
yes,
which goes back to the fates do not punish, they prepare.
prepare. Yes. So I did have an editor experience that ended up being very positive at the end, but the editor did not do their job. So I had to do it. So yes, I had to. I had to learn how to do it.
You need to know what you're looking for in an editor and find out what they've edited, or talk to people that have used them. Maybe that's it. Yes. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, look at the time. Oh my goodness, look at the time. Well, before we close, Brigid, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
I think my main mission now, like just novel aside, is to let people know that if you do feel that calling to do something, if you have like a gut feeling, um, don't ignore it. It's not your job to ignore it. It's just your job to say yes, because those callings know more than you do, and they're going to guide you to unfathomable joy and happiness and more fulfillment than maybe you put yourself on the path. And especially as a woman or a mother, and we give of ourselves and our time so much. And sometimes when we take that time for ourselves, we feel guilty about it. Don't let that stop you.
Mm.
It's not about finding the time, it's by recognizing what matters enough to make the time.
Oh, good call. Good call. Well, to our amazing guests, thank you, Brigid. And to our listeners, belongers, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember that you belong. This is Dea Irby with Here Where You Belong podcast, signing off. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in to Hear Where You Belong. We hope today's episode has inspired you to embrace the beauty of belonging in your own life. Remember, no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. Join us again next time for more insightful conversations and heartwarming stories. Until then, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember that you belong.